My name is Dr. Matt Rasband. I'm a professor of neuroscience at Baylor College of Medicine. I'd like to invite you as a prospective graduate student to learn more about the computational and theoretical neurosciences here at Baylor College of Medicine from my colleague, Dr. Jeff Yao.
We have been at the forefront of theoretical neuroscience with the establishment of the Center for Neuroscience and Artificial Intelligence, and this is founded by Andreas Tolias. And the effort that was also related to the BRAIN initiative was to wed experiment and theory. And the idea is that with the technologies that are available now to collect massive amounts of data, the idea is how do we make sense of that data? And so many of the theoretical labs here are working with experimentalists to come up with computational and theoretical frameworks for understanding these massive amounts of data that we're collecting with these cutting-edge technologies. In our graduate program then, we have a number of labs that are focused on both the experiment side and closely working with the theory. We have labs like Ankit Patel, like Zach Pickow, that are just directly working on the theory side and again, working hand in hand with labs like Andreas Tolias, like Jake Raymer's lab. And so this is just all within the Baylor Neuroscience Department. Outside of the Baylor department and BCM, we also have a lot of strong collaborations with Rice University, which is just down the street. There's the neuroengineering program, where many of our students are collaborating with labs at Rice. Even in the broader Houston community, we have colleagues over at UH that are University of Houston that are also participating and conducting their own research that is heavily theory-driven. And so over in many different seminars and journal clubs and lab meetings, we then have meetings with labs and students and faculty that span these different institutions. Fundamental goal, I think, of the theory groups here at Baylor is to ask ambitious questions that are really tackling these fundamental questions of why and how. Right? And I think that one of the challenges to studying the brain and understanding how the brain relates to behavior is first limited by just the amount of data that one can collect. And again, as technologies have developed recently, now we're starting to have the problem on the back end, which is we have so much data, how do we make sense of that data? And so the first question that the theory groups are working on is just coming up with ways to understand what to do with all of this data. How do we make sense of such a massive amount of data? And the types of questions that we're asking may just relate to how is the brain connected? And so some of the studies that the labs are conducting just involve dissecting the brain down to the smallest fundamental units of organization, understanding what are the different cell types that are found in the brain, how are they connected to each other, and this could involve just looking at the micron scale and realizing that we have billions of connections. How are these connections ordered? What is the principles that underlie the connectivity of the brain? And that's just one of the fundamental questions, just based on the structure of the brain and the structure of neural networks. Once you understand the hardware, then the question is even more difficult because you're trying to understand how does the hardware relate to the software or the way that the brain is programmed to work. So what are the computations that the brain is solving? And how do those computations then relate to the behavior of animals or the behavior of agents? And so I think the questions that we're really trying to address here at Baylor are these really fundamental questions that relate to how does the brain function and how is the brain organized?
I hope that you've enjoyed this overview of our neuroscience graduate program here at Baylor College of Medicine and that we've convinced you that this is an amazing place to train in the neurosciences. Lastly, I hope that I'll see your application.